Nation!
There was a little girl named Ashley. She sat inside her dad's car, waiting for her parents, Leon and Annie, in front of their family home. Now, for years, Ashley's parents were friends with another married couple that lived in the same cul-de-sac as them, Dwight and Teresa Johnson, who also had a daughter of their own named Lisa, but was almost a decade older than Ashley, so they couldn't really relate to a lot of things. Annie, feeling the need to take on a better career path, decided to enroll into a local college, working full-time during the day and took classes at night. Now, because her father worked 12-hour shifts, Annie would have to ask the Johnsons could they watch her daughter on the days she had night classes, saying that she would compensate them for it. The Johnsons agreed, but they turned down the offer. Well, Mr. Johnson turned down the offer, who always showed immense amount of attention towards Ashley. You know, more than a neighbor should, especially a male neighbor. A full week would go by of Ashley spending nights with her new babysitters, and like anyone would expect, they were very kind and giving towards Ashley, letting her pick her own movies, overloading her with snacks and candies. You know, it was a no zone for her. Ashley came to be excited whenever her mom had school, because that meant she was on her way to the fun house, is what she called it. But after that first week, things would drastically change for Ashley, begging her mama not to make her go back anymore. She don't want to go. Got to the point where she asked her could she go to school with her mom, because she didn't want to leave her side at all. Annie's confused because her daughter would almost rush her to leave for school so she can go to the fun house. And as a mother, Annie, she didn't handle this information with no real urgency. She asked Ashley over and over about why she feels this way, but would get the same answer every time. I don't know, I just miss you, mommy, or I don't get to see you anymore. You know, the typical answer you would expect from an 11-year-old. A full month passed, and Ashley started to have nightmares every other night, screaming not to take her to the Johnson's house. And one of these nights, her mother walked in yelling for her to shut up, go to sleep, even telling her dad she just wants some attention. And she's okay, she's fine. A few days later, Ashley seen her mother talking to Mr. Johnson through her bedroom window, and not knowing the reason at all, but she just felt fear coming from her stomach, not even fully remembering why. She just knew every time she seen her neighbor, she got scared. She would get pieces of memory back throughout the years, but would eventually forget it, so to stop the nightmares. The nightmares got easier to handle, but more of a out-of-body experience, saying it was like watching herself walk through her dream from her own bed. 6 years later, years will go by, and little Ashley is now 17, but she's not the innocent little girl that everyone remembers, knows, and loves. Her dad became estranged, and her mom did the best she could to pick up the pieces of her broken family, only having good or worse days. Now, she met a boy from school who was new to the neighborhood, and she would transfer all of those tarnished feelings straight into him. Now, the day before, Ashley planned to meet up with her boyfriend after dark for a little late night quickie in the back seat. She sat on the trunk of her car, lighting up a cigarette, knowing she was in the clear because her mama had to take meds in order for her to fall asleep. So when she's out, she's out. She could see headlights coming up from a distance, and thinking it was her boyfriend, she waved her hands to get his attention. But those lights soon turned red and blue, knowing now it's the police. She stepped on the curb as they pulled up, asking her how old she was. After assuring them that she is 17, they pulled the probable cause card, telling her they smelled weed, demanding to search her car. She wasn't smoking at all, but she didn't know enough about her own civil rights at the time to turn down the search. Not 5 minutes later, they put her in handcuffs, finding a sack of weed and a bag of pills under the passenger seat, which was her boyfriend's. And being loyal, she didn't say anything to incriminate him. Actually glad he was late meeting up with her. She could hear footsteps and voices coming from across the street, which were the Johnsons yelling out they knew her. Her mother's inside the home and you have to talk to her before you lock this little girl up. The officer assured them she's just detaining her. And with all the attitude, Ashley turned around telling her she's in fact not a little girl. While looking at Mrs. Johnson, she took a glance at Mr. Johnson, who had an eerie stare in her direction. Ashley's plan was to have sex that night, so she was only dressed in some mini night shorts, no underwear, and a white cropped out tank top. When the officer pulled back her wrists to be cuffed, the bottom of her breasts were clearly hanging out, visible to everybody. Mrs. Johnson asked the officer could she cover her up with her jacket, but Mr. Johnson steps in, snatching his jacket off, almost like he raced his wife to do it. Now, while hanging the jacket over her shoulders, he took full advantage, filling her up in front of the officer and his wife. But because it was so dark outside, they couldn't really tell what he was doing. Last thing she wanted, another reason for them to be out here longer than she wanted to be, so she just kept quiet until she was back in the comfort of her home with her mom. With the officer and Mr. Johnson by her side, they knocked at Ashley's door. Her mom opened up the door, wiping the crust out her eyes, and she asked her daughter what the hell going on, what you done did, what you got into. They gave her the full rundown, and both the officer and Mr. Johnson could see how heated her mom was at her now. So the officer, she was actually cool about it, throwing the drugs away and just told her to stay out of trouble and to stay away from bad influences, implying that her boyfriend is the bad influence. The county they lived in, it was small, tight-knit. Everybody knew everybody and everybody knew her boyfriend. When Ashley and her mom was finally together, she would try to explain to her mom what Mr. Johnson did to her, filling her up while cuffed on the squad car, giving her mad crazy looks, but she didn't want to hear none of it, calling her a liar, saying all she want to do is spread her legs for everybody. And she tried to let her mom get out all that frustration and anger before she actually told her what Mr. Johnson did. And when that time came, she made sure to be very specific, very clear, and very serious about what she was saying. And after telling her, she also said that this ain't the first time Mr. Johnson made her feel uncomfortable. But this time it was blatant, saying that he actually came close to putting his fingers inside of her. Because she was wearing no underwear, he pressed his fingers up against the lips of her vagina. And that info just made her mother even more furious with her. Her mother actually fixed her mouth to say,
"Don't nobody want your fast ass. That man got a wife. Don't go breaking up no happy homes in my house. What he seeing you anyway? You can't do nothing but fucking suck for him."
Screamed for her to go to her room, saying she grounded for a whole month. Ashley didn't know what to do. She didn't know who to call. She just felt alone. And more years are passing by. Ashley, she's an adult now, still living with her mother and her 2-year-old son Tyler. And the father of her child was arrested for armed robbery a month later after he was born. So not enough that her mom already thought she was fast and loose, but now she got to do it on her own for real. Nowadays, she made sure to stay away from Mr. Johnson and his eerie ass ways altogether. But it didn't stop him the least for trying his hand on this day. He would come knock on the door while her mother was out getting groceries, opening the door, Tyler in her arms, and Mr. Johnson asked could he come in for a second to get out the heat until his wife gets home, saying that he lost his house keys. She ain't had no run-ins with him. He been pretty cool for the past few years, no crazy looks. So she telling herself, I got my son, so I doubt that he tries anything at this point. And they have some small talk, sitting down watching some TV, and he takes it upon himself to start playing with her child. She's not as uncomfortable as Mr. Johnson always made her feel. Ashley was an adult now. There was a lot of things she wasn't afraid of anymore. She knew that she would protect herself and her son at all costs if need be. Ashley sat at the edge of the couch, Tyler in her lap. Mr. Johnson sat directly in front of them, fake playing games with her son, laughing, giggling, doing the regular baby talk most adults would do. And he grabbed her son's hand, waving him like he was a puppet. And then he grabs for Ashley's breasts, immediately swiping his hand back and apologizing, saying it was a mistake. But it was a clear-cut slime ball move he made. She gets up with her son, trying to rush to the other side of the room, and super aggressive, he grabs her ass. Ashley shocked. She turned around, telling him to get the fuck out. But he still head towards her, telling her, "Put the baby down, put the baby down. Girl, you know you want it." And her mama come in the nick of time. And Mr. Johnson tell her mama the same story he told her. He was locked out and wanted to get out the heat. And he said it's okay, go ahead and make yourself at home. Ashley screamed at her mama, telling her to make him leave. And before she can make any accusations, he excused himself right after, saying he don't want to cause no trouble and he'll catch her later. Now, Ashley knew that was directed towards her mom, but his choice of words, "I'll catch you later," it freaked her the hell out. With a face full of tears, she yelling at her mom about what Mr. Johnson tried to do. And her mother told her to sit down so we can talk about it. Let's think about this for a second. And right there in that moment, She looked up at her mother and she knew. This whole time, she knew. Her mother knew that Mr. Johnson been making advancements towards her this whole time. Now in this moment, Ashley wanted to grab her son and run from it all. But her mama gripped her hand, reminding her who made life even possible for her. So respect will be given. Ashley calms down, and so does her mom. And she could never prepare herself for what good old Mama Bear was about to cook up. She told Ashley to get up and turn around. Confused, but she does it. She then asks her to give her a full 360. Even more confused, but she does it also. She lastly asked her very politely to get on her knees, grabbing the pillow from the couch for her own comfort. Weirded the fuck out now, but she does that too. Her mom stood over her with the face of the devil herself. This the only position you should look forward to, you little hoe. Ashley wanted to jump out of her skin and strangle the woman who called herself her mother. But the pain she felt, it kept her frozen in place. This was real pain. She let out a silent cry, all tears but no sound. Her mother looked back, and she actually saw a glimpse of guilt under all that cold hate. And all this was done right in front of her baby boy. Ashley got up, went to put her son in the bathtub, and laid him in bed early for the night. Now while leaving out her son's room, making sure to leave it cracked a little bit to make sure if he wake up throughout the night, as soon as she turned towards her bedroom, there was her mother, standing in front of her, nothing but bra and panties with a dog chain around her neck. Her mother Annie passed her a bag with the same outfit inside, just a different color. She was also cuffing a bankroll in her hand wrapped in a rubber band. It's time to grow up, little girl, she told her, slapping the money in the palm of her hand, saying to follow her. And Ashley does. But before they take another step, Ashley stopped in her tracks. Annie looked back, giving Ashley a hard look, and she tell her mama she needs to answer a question before they go. Annie not trying to waste time on frivolous conversation, and she yanks her arm to come on. But Ashley stands firm. You need to. That's the least you can do, Mom. Annie calms her posture, giving Ashley the green light. She take a deep breath, and she asks if it was anything that happened to her when the Johnsons used to babysit her at 11 years old. She can't remember it fully, and she think if she could, then the nightmares would stop. Going off that whole logic of facing your fears to get over them. But she doesn't know what she's actually afraid of. Her mother Annie, with a soft smirk, stares her down. But the brave Ashley not breaking eye contact with mother either. Ain't nothing happened to you that ain't need to. Use that fear, girl. It's a tool. Trust me. Ashley broke her stare like she was in a state of hypnosis. This was a question she always was afraid to ask, not even sure if that's the answer that she wanted or needed to hear. They made their way down the stairway, which was also its own hallway. So if you were in the living room, you couldn't see the person coming down until they hit the bottom of the stairs. You can hear them coming, but you can't see them. Her mom stopped her in the middle of the stairway, putting both her hands on her cheeks, and said she always will love her. But I need you to understand how the world works. Nobody's there when it really counts, especially men. Just look at your dad. Left me high and dry without a goodbye, love you, or see you later. So us women have to take risk, do things we don't want to, maybe even things we hate and never thought we could do. But we look out for us first. Men only want what we have between our legs, so we gonna make them pay for it 10 times over. Now Ashley, she had a good idea of what she was telling her to do, but she didn't know what actually waited on them in that living room. Her mom whipped her dog chain around, putting it in front of her, and started making her way down. She squeezed her daughter's hand, making Ashley feel as if she was scared her damn self. When Ashley turned that corner, you couldn't describe the emotions she felt in that moment. She froze, seeing 4 grown men standing in the middle of that living room, and all of those men were naked. There was one face out of those 4 men that she recognized, and that was Mr. Johnson. Her mother got down on her knees the same way she asked her daughter to do earlier. Look back at Ashley. 10 times over, baby girl. Come take what's yours.
Talk, no comment though, just paper chase. Chasing my dreams, my nightmares ain't got no money, just a cardboard sign. man and they existence so bummy. And they want me down with them at the bottom of the barrel. I don't want no parts of it. For that life I never settle. So